Well, hello everyone. This is a filming for Orientation to ABC Life, and I have some special guests here with me today. This is Bill Morningstar, who is the president of our National American Baptist Men's Organization, and beside him is the acting executive director for the men's organization, Bob Selecta. And Bill and Bob are going to be sharing with us some of the important things about their ministry. So welcome. So glad you guys are here. Bob hails from West Virginia.
Or Bill does.
Bill does. Get the names right?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Right.
Bob is from Nebraska. I should know that. I've known him a really long time. Go Big Red.
Yeah.
And Bill is from West Virginia, doing some great work there. So,
Thank you.
Bill, tell us a little bit about the American Baptist Men's Ministry. These are new ministers and seminarians, so they want to know about your ministry.
Well, the mission and focus of American Baptist Men Ministries as a whole is to bring men and young men into a saving relationship with Jesus Christ. We encapsulate those efforts in the acronym itself, MEN, that being standing for mission, evangelism, and nurturing.
Great.
Our missions, we find, is our gateway to our evangelism. And in short, through our mission field, and we do that in a variety of ways, our disaster relief response, our work party mission focus, and just basically going anywhere, anytime that people need help or assistance of any kind, we can come in contact with people, and that gives us the opportunity to share the message of Jesus with them. Once that relationship is established, then we make efforts to nurture them and disciple them along their way in their walk with Christ in His life.
And I know one of the ways that you do that is by connecting with local churches, right?
We do, very much so. We frequently are asked to come and speak to churches that either have an active men's group and just want to hear about what's going on and the opportunities within the national ministry, or that don't have an active men's fellowship and want some assistance to revitalize that or develop that, and we give them ideas and help along the way in doing that. We rely on the men in our local churches as a support vehicle for their regional men's fellowships, and then of course for our national ministry leadership position.
Awesome. So you work a lot then, not only with the local church, but also with regional bodies. And we've talked in our orientation, there's 33 regional bodies plus Alaska. And so you work with those, and not all of them have super big ABMen ministries, but some do.
Some do. And some are very small, as you point out. And we're organized geographically different than American Baptist Churches USA. We have 14 regions that are, I guess we would call them regions.
Yeah.
14 regions that within the continent of the United, 13 within the continent of the United States, and then Puerto Rico.
Yeah, and that's your newest one, right? Puerto Rico?
It is.
Yeah, so out of all of the tragedy that they've been doing, the men actually coming down and doing multiple mission trips to Puerto Rico, out of that has arisen the men in Puerto Rico to say, hey, we want to start an American Baptist Men chapter, correct?
It was very exciting, yes. That's exactly what happened. As we made the commitment to participate in the renew and restore and rebuild projects there. Those men did come out and say, you know, we know who you are and we want to be part of what you're doing. It's a great thing. It was very exciting.
That's awesome. Now, Bob, I know you were, I'm saying the names right now,
Yeah.
Bill and Bob, I'll get that.
Yeah.
Bob, I know you're past president,
Yeah.
and I know one of the things you did when you came in was kind of say, what is it that American Baptist Men do? And you kind of saw that there were nine areas that you try to do. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, Kevin. American Baptist Men is, everywhere we go, we're seen as the disaster relief guys.
Sure.
Everyone seems to think that is our ministry, but in actuality, it is so much more. A history of our men's ministry, which in 3 years celebrates its 100th year of National Men's Ministries.
Wow, in 2022, right?
2022.
Right.
Is actually a ministry that's made up of 9 different focuses, if you will, disaster relief being one of them. But the responsibility of governance which is our connection back not only throughout our men's regions, but back through our ABC relationships. spiritual ministry and development along those sides in prayer, leadership development, the responsibility for support of our leaders that are in place, and certainly cultivation of new leaders as we go forward.
And you're seeing that firsthand because the executive director has gotten very ill with cancer.
Right.
Wonderful gentleman named Lucky.
Right.
Now you've had to kind of step in and help that, but he's been mentoring you even
Yes,
as he goes through
has.
everything to help that.
We're trying to give him some time off to focus on what he needs to focus on, but
Right.
it's hard to stop being passionate about Jesus when you love and you're committed to that.
Right.
So we stay in connection quite often, but in to the same regard, the men's ministry development, the communication medias in today's world. A classic example would be the floods recently in Nebraska, where so much of the need was coming so quickly. And ABMen USA and ABMen of Nebraska utilize social media platforms in order to be able to communicate need,
Right.
response, and coordination. And we were able to do that effectively, quickly, and so were the churches, by the way, within those regions. And so those are constantly being refined and developed. And then lastly, I think of the 9 ministries that we are working to focus within ABMen USA is the ministry that we call Work Party. That's our new ministry that we've really formalized in the last 2 years. More and more, besides disasters, other needs have come to us.
Right.
Seeking help, seeking manpower, if you will, seeking guidance and concerned care. And so more and more, our covenant with Green Lake, where we go twice a year and put on a work party, where people come in from all over the country, and we do work for Green Lake, and needed work to get things cleaned up before the season, and certainly at the end of the season to shut it down. Our covenant relationship with Bacone College, where we come in June each year, and we spend time helping them ready the campus again for the following year. We do that, and then we have groups like First Crow Baptist Church in Montana, where we also go out and help put things together at their church that they're working to rebuild. So these opportunities exist for people outside of a platform of a disaster, but create a mission field throughout the inner part of our country, people to go to get together with their men's groups and come and help.
Now I know you're the acting executive director, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interim, yeah.
Yeah. And so I know that Jack Cobb is your relief coordinator, right?
National Disaster Relief
Right.
Coordinator.
And I was president in West Virginia for a meeting not long ago, and Jack was explaining FEMA has actually put a price tag on volunteer labor, and that in the last year he had calculated between work parties and disaster relief, things that the ABMen that they're aware of on the national level have done, and it was somewhere over $300,000 worth of volunteer labor.
Right.
And I thought, wow, that's an amazing number that different budgets don't have to deal with, because our men in ABC Life have tried to help. And that's just the start. I mean, if more people were involved, that could do so much more.
Well, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to communicate effectively. I really believe, as Bill and I have traveled all over the country the last 2 years, we have seen a passion to want to serve Christ.
Yeah,
We just not have seen a clear path for some of these men's groups to get to that point. All of them have a passion to serve. And we look forward to finding those new ways and those new resources and those new paths for men. In the meantime, what we have seen is a desire to serve Christ at a time where many times people are at their lowest, maybe most vulnerable point in their existence, for men to come alongside, and work parties that include women that come with us to these.
Right.
Yeah.
And just come alongside of people and just relay the fact that somebody cares for them. Jesus loves them, and that's the reason we're there.
Now, you're talking about your social media interactions, and I learned recently, when you put something on Facebook and somebody shares it, and then somebody else shares it, Facebook counts all of those different times,
Right.
that it's shared, and then they report back, by the way, your video was shared, 1,000 times or what have you.
Right.
And I know in your work in Nebraska, Bob, just trying to get the word out, one of the people you partnered with was a local pastor named Pastor Carl.
Yes.
And Carl asked for, after some of the flooding, he asked for some shovels. You shared that, a few other people shared that in the network, and all of a sudden he got a pallet of shovels.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
and he was overwhelmed with that. And then they asked for fans.
They asked for fans to deliver throughout the neighborhood where people were trying to dry out their homes after the 8 feet of water was removed from their
Right.
basements. And 42 fans showed up within
Right.
about 3 hours,
Right.
just being dropped off.
What really got me though, I mean, we saw, I mean, you and I saw that
Yeah.
live and in person.
Yeah.
But what really got me was the batteries. They said, you know, people don't have
Yes.
electricity on or whatever, and so we really need, especially AA batteries. If
Yeah.
anybody has, you know, a pack that they could share, thinking people would just go to their battery drawer
Yeah.
and pull out a pack. But a business heard about this,
Yeah.
that you know, their job is batteries. I mean, that's what they do.
Yeah.
And they sent over, like 20 boxes of batteries, and each box was, like 680 batteries or something like that?
676 batteries in
There you-
each case.
Yeah, in each case, there's like 20 cases,
Yes,
so
yeah.
he asked for a few batteries and got tens of thousands.
Yeah, that's the way Jesus
So-
works, I
It
think.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's part of that, connecting with people that,
It is.
you know, and utilizing social media and all that. And I think our new pastors, especially the young ones, are gonna go, wow, they got that together. You know,
Yeah.
that's cool.
The key for something like this, you can never prepare for a disaster like this, but what you can do is you can start in your local church and encourage the men to have a local church ministry.
Right.
And establish that core. And then when these things come along, you have the basis for communication, conduit for being included in the information that comes out to get your men engaged in it. The bottom line is, people would say to me for years, what does it mean to be an American Baptist man? And I would respond, if you don't believe in mission, you're in the wrong church view. Because that's what American Baptist men and American Baptist churches are all about. Mission. Sharing the love of Jesus to everyone and anyone that we can, and having the opportunity to do that through this kind of ministry is just one of the tools that we use to come alongside and share that Jesus loves them.
That's awesome. Bill, I think we have time for just a little closer story. Would you mind, I know you have hundreds in your head, but I know that as you guys have been out about, you've been kind of surprised that people are watching you.
They do.
You know,
That's
you're
true.
out there trying to mud out a house or whatever, and people, so can you share one of those stories that's close to your heart?
Well, I was actually taking a break from a work site that we were there. It was a work party site, even though it had been the location of a disaster several years before. We really weren't there for that reason. We were there to help people remediate their homes, put floors and things of that nature down that they didn't have the skilled labor to do. So we were putting a floor in a home, and I had been outside taking a break, and a couple of the neighbors had come over, saw me, and they came over and they said, "Why are you even here?" And it gave me the opportunity to say, well, he came, so I came. And then the next question was, of course, what is that? What do you mean by that? Well, that was a segue for me to tell them about how Christ didn't come here, he came to me, and the impact that he's had on my life, and the impact that doing this work has on his kingdom and other people. And that's really what all this ministry is about touching the lives of other people. And as Bob pointed out, some are at their, at the edge of hopelessness. No one cares, I have no hope, it's over. And to just be part of that restoration process. And some of them aren't, they're just unchurched or unsaved or church hurt. And we have an opportunity to impact those people that without doing this type of ministry work, we wouldn't have. And it's powerful and it's dynamic for us.
I know the guys aren't always super touchy-feely. I mean, all guys everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I know that one of the things that I've been really touched by is seeing guys who don't know Christ coming up to you at one of those work parties or those sites and saying, why are you doing what you're doing? And you explain it, and then they say, well, can I help?
That-
I mean,
that
they've
is
been
hap-
impacted
that
by
is
it.
happening.
And through that, they start asking questions.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're sharing the love of Christ with them. And they either haven't heard that before, or they haven't seen it as the hands and feet.
They have not seen it
Or
in
they-
action.
Or they don't feel they could ever be worthy
Right.
of that. And the story of the Sellers, South Carolina trip, where the West Virginia men have gone, I think 6 or 7 times to that community forgotten by the powers that be because they didn't think it was worthy of the help because it's such a poor community. But that's what American Baptist Men focuses on: the widow, the poor, those that are in special need. And usually it's when the TV cameras have left and the volunteer pool has come and gone, that's when we go in and look for those that have fallen through the cracks. And on one of these trips, some of the men had the opportunity to visit with this young man, and they were asking him, you know, do you believe in Jesus? And he said, oh yeah, I believe in Jesus. And they said, at some point over the conversation, have you been baptized? Oh no. No, I'd never be worthy of that. And they were able to work alongside of this person as an example over the next several days and just share with this man that it's not about what you earn that gets you to your salvation. It's about what you believe, what's in your heart.
Right.
And one of the next trips down, this man came running over to the guys and said, guess what? I've been baptized. You know, and the point being that that's the kind of fellowship, that's the kind of nurturing, that's the kind of evangelism the men's ministry tries to accomplish. And as I've had the opportunity to travel over the country the last couple of years, and certainly the last couple of months following this disaster in the Midwest, I have to tell you that I'm sensing an incredible passion of people wanting to get involved, not wanting to be wasteful of their time and their resources, but wanting to get involved in things that matter. And we have at least 7 teams from around the United States that have contacted us and said, we want to come help in any way we can. One of the first things we asked were for flood buckets so that people could be cleaning up their homes as the water receded. And over 1,000 flood buckets were received over the last 45 days.
That's awesome.
People just love, and 2 from Pennsylvania. That's right. And people just looking for the opportunity to share the humanity and love of Christ in a place that needed it terribly. And I couldn't be more humbled.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bill and Bob, for coming and sharing with us a little bit about your ministry.
Thank you.
It is an important ministry, and it's just about us immobilizing the men of our churches to make an impact. And
for all of those new pastors and clergy, if you ever wanted to know how we could be of help to you, just call us. And we would love to come to your church, and we would love to talk to your men, and we would love to help you and get to that next level in your men's ministry.
Right, and I just want to say too that the men have a very frugal budget, and you don't have paid staff. So these 2 men are visiting us today in Pennsylvania from their respective homes at their own cost because they love Jesus and want to make an impact. And so if you would like to be a part of their ministry, let them know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.